We're going to dig a little deeper here. For more, we're joined by William Taylor, former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. He's now the vice president for the Middle East and Africa in the United States Institute for Peace. Ambassador, welcome to the show. First of all, you spent so much time in Ukraine, so this is perfect to have you on to talk about whether or not the impact is going to be as intended, because there are a lot of skeptics out there. Your initial thoughts on these new announcements?
These new announcements are a big change on the part of Europeans. The Europeans had not taken the sanctions, had not taken the crisis as seriously as I think they should have until the airliner was shut down. Once the airliner was shut down, 200 Dutch citizens were killed, other Europeans were killed. They began to take it seriously. They began to see that this crisis has a real effect on them. And that rejuvenated them. That was an indication that they have to take this seriously, and they have now come to take these sanctions.
Now, prior to the show, I went through the president's statement on these sanctions. It really involves capital raising for future projects, and also involves more control, or I guess restrictions on any technology that's being purchased or any military weapons that are being purchased for future projects. So it sounds like the focus is about the future, not about the impact that would have right now. Were people expecting perhaps something tougher than this?
I think people expected about what we see today. That is, there have been threats of sectoral sanctions for several weeks. And these are now sectoral sanctions put on both by the Americans and by the Europeans. The combination, I think, is going to be pretty effective going forward.
Now, there's a big worry that what's Russia going to do? What's Putin going to do? What's his reaction going to be to all of this? Because so far, every time that there have been sanctions, there has been some sort of at least verbal retaliation, if not something more concrete than that. Is that something we should be concerned about?
Surely, we should be concerned. However, these sanctions, because they've taken so long to design and because they've been negotiated out, have been targeted, have been focused on exactly the individuals, the banks, the sectors, oil, gas, banking, energy, that is specifically going to have an effect on the Russians. So, and it will have more effect on the Russians than on the Europeans or on the Americans. It will affect Europeans and Americans, there's no doubt. You can't put sanctions on without some pain to the people who are putting it on. But the Russians will feel it much more.
I'm going to ask you to put your ambassador hat on here, and I'm sure there are a lot of discussions on ifs and more ifs and what could happen. So, if you're sitting in that room right now trying to guess what President Putin is going to do, what is his end game? What does he want?
No one really understands Mr. Putin, I don't think. I certainly don't, and people in that room don't. However, my general sense is that he wants to destabilize Ukraine. He wants to make it so Ukraine cannot join Europe, which it clearly wants to do.
It's already gone that way.
It has gone that way already, exactly. But he can still destabilize it in the east so that the important reforms that Ukraine has to take will be difficult to do. So he can still have an effect to slow down the movement.
Is it punishment to Ukraine in his mind, or is there something more that he wants?
I think there's something more he wants. I don't think it's punishment for trying to go to Europe. I think he wants Ukraine in his sphere of influence. Spheres of influence are an old and outdated concept. I think that's what he's after.
So let's talk about the allies a little bit. France, they're delivering a couple new warships to Russia. That was all previously planned out. They're going to go ahead with it. Is that strange?
That's very strange. It's very strange.
Tell us why we should be worried about this.
We should be worried about this, and all of Russia's neighbors should be worried about these warships. These are capable warships. They have 6 places where helicopters can land on these ships. They can carry 30 helicopters. They can carry 500 Marines and tanks. These are capable warships, and so all of Russia's neighbors around the maritime borders, including Japan, including China, should be concerned about this. I believe the French are going to come under so much pressure that they will cancel these ships.
The neighbors, these European neighbors you're talking about.
I'm talking about European as well as Asian
There
neighbors.
has been a lot of criticism they haven't done enough. This new round of coordinated sanctions with the White House, is there more? I mean, do we expect more to come, or is this going to be more of a wait-and-see attitude? What's next now?
I think this is a wait-and-see attitude. These are harsh sanctions. They are sectoral sanctions. They will have an effect in Russia. The question is, what does Mr. Putin do? This is what you asked earlier. If he backs off, which we hope he does, people will stop dying. He will call off his people that are causing the problem in eastern Ukraine. If he backs off, then that will be a good indication. If he doubles down, if he keeps pushing in eastern Ukraine, if he keeps putting more equipment, more anti-aircraft weapons inside Ukraine, more soldiers, more leaders of these separatists, then there could be more to come, more sanctions to come.
There is so much at stake. Ambassador Taylor, you're now with the United States Institute of Peace. Thank you for explaining to us why we should all be concerned about what's happening there in Ukraine.
Good to talk to you.